Okay, grade 8. This is lesson 2 in chapter 10. The lesson says linear measure. Okay? That means linear means your measure. Linear means a line, whether it's diagonal, vertical, horizontal. Okay? And well, linear means straight line. There, straight line. So, and straight lines we've learned there's 4 of them: vertical, diagonal up, diagonal down, and horizontal. Okay, so in this lesson you're going to see lines. They can be vertical, horizontal, or diagonal. And what are you going to do about these lines? You're going to measure. So that's what this lesson is about. Okay, so when we're measuring, we need tools. And what tools do we use when we are measuring lines? You need a ruler, okay? Something like this. Every day I tell you, you must draw lines using a ruler. Yes? You can have a 6-inch ruler. You can have a 12-inch ruler. Then you have lines that are longer than your ruler. So you use a tape measure. You have something like this. Wait. You have a tape measure. You see the mhandis when he comes to your house or when he's out in the site, he uses this tool. Yes? So this is called a tape measure. Okay? It's just like a ruler, but it is longer. It measures a longer length. Okay? Now, let us address things. So we have said linear means straight line. And measure means to know how long. So you're measuring a line. I'm asking you how long it is. How long is the line? And lines, when you measure them, you have to give me a unit. Okay? As we discuss more, you will see what are the different kinds of units we can use when we are measuring lines. Okay. So, a line cannot be measured because it does not stop, because it is infinite. Okay? That is why we cannot measure a line. But we can measure a line segment. That means part of a line. Okay? So, a line segment can be measured because it is part of a line, because it has 2 endpoints. You see, a line segment stops. A line does not stop. How can you measure something that does not stop? It's impossible. So, the line segment is part of a line. It has 2 endpoints. You must put these dots at the end. That's why they're called endpoints, okay? It can be measured using a ruler, a tape measure, and we use units to describe how long it is. So what kind of units do we use? Centimeters, meters, inches. Why did I repeat meters twice? So this M means meters. So let me remove it. So centimeter, inches, meters, miles, kilometers, millimeters are some of the units you can use to describe the measurement of a line segment. Okay? All measurements are approximations. They can never be exact because some tools are not made equally. Okay? So that is why. So we always measure. That's why we say the measurement is an approximation. Okay? So what is an approximation? A rounding. So all measurements are approximations depending on the smallest unit of measure and the tool you're using. So if you're using this tool, this ruler, you can use centimeters or you can use inches. Okay? This side is inches. And this side is centimeters. Okay? The same thing with this small ruler. Use on this side I have inches and on this side I have centimeters. So I can measure using centimeters or millimeters. See? And here, I can measure using inches. All right, let's continue. Now, there are two types of measuring units. There are two types of measuring units. We have metric units and we have imperial units. So the rest of the world uses metric units. The USA only uses the imperial units. Now, what are the metric units? The millimeter, the centimeter, the meter, and the kilometer. And what are the imperial units? The inches, the foot, the yard, the miles. These are units of length and distance, because that's what we are talking about here. We are talking about length or lines. So that's why I'm talking. So these are the only metric units for measuring length and distance, these ones. And these ones are the only imperial units that you will use if you're measuring length or distance. So you should know how many millimeters make a centimeter, how many centimeters make a meter, how many meters make a kilometer. This you should know from grade 7 and grade 6. I keep on saying no one will remind you. You must know how many millimeters are in a centimeter, how many centimeters are in a meter, how many meters are in a kilometer. This you must know. You should also know how many inches make a foot, how many feet make a yard, how many yard make a mile. These you should know, okay? Now, we need to know how to use a ruler correctly. I am sure your grade 3 teacher taught you how to do this. And some of you must have forgotten. Okay, now, when you're using a ruler, 1, you must know that if your point is on 0 and on 1, I did not say before, I said on 0. It must be on 0 and it must be on 1. Then we call that a whole unit because it is exactly one whole. Okay? So when you write this, you can write it as 1, let's say 1 centimeter, or you can say 1.00 like that, centimeter, like that, or meter, or whatever unit it is you're using. Now, if your segment is before 1, that means it stops before it gets to 1, then this is less than a unit because it is less than 1. Remember, 1 is the unit. So if you're less than a unit, that means you're less than 1. So what value can we use to represent this line segment? Your number must be a proper fraction or a decimal less than 1 but greater than 0. That means it cannot be negative. Okay? It must be a proper fraction. That means your numerator is smaller than the denominator, like 3 over 5 or 6 over 10, like that, or 7 over 13. So your fraction must be a proper fraction and your decimal must be 0 point something, 0.01, 0.12, 0.20, 0.35, 0.99. Those are the decimals you can use, 0.99, 0.997. All these are numbers less than 1. 0.2, 0.001, okay? All right, now, if your line segment passes the 1 mark, then we say this is more than a unit because it is more than 1, okay? What kind of numbers can you use to represent this line segment? You can use an improper fraction, like let's say 10 over 3 or 35 over 7. It doesn't matter. All these are improper fraction because your numerator is greater than the denominator. Remember, we learned that in lesson 1 in term 1. What are improper fractions? You've also learned them in grade 7 and grade 6. Okay? Or it can be a whole number greater than 1. It can be 2 or 3 or 4, like that. Or it can be a mixed number. It can be 1 1/2 or 2 2/3, like that. It can be a decimal greater than 1, 1.09. That number is greater than 1. Or 3.6666, like that. Your decimal can be repeating, but it has to be greater than 1. Okay? So, remember, more than a unit because it's greater than 1. Less than a unit because it's less than 1. This is a unit because it is 1. Okay? Now we move on. Now, if I give you something to measure, how will you do that correctly? One, you need to know how to use your ruler. And on the ruler, you don't count the lines. No. Wait, let me put it on a white space. You don't count these lines. No. You count the spaces. The spaces is what you're counting. Okay? Don't count the lines. So, remember, just like any other measurement, there is a part and there is a whole. Now, the whole is you count the number of spaces between any two whole numbers. Because what if my ruler breaks and I don't have 0? That doesn't mean I can't use the ruler to count. I will pick any two whole numbers that are on my ruler. So between 3 and 4, there is 10 spaces. 3 and 4 are whole numbers. So I pick any two whole numbers and count my spaces. Those spaces will go to the bottom of your fraction, which is your whole. And then the part is you count the spaces of your line segment. We will do a few examples. Okay? We'll do a few examples to see how to do that correctly. Now, you will see in your question where it says to the nearest millimeter, or to the nearest centimeter, or to the nearest meter, or to the nearest kilometer, or to the nearest unit. This means round to the nearest whole number. You should know how to round to the nearest whole number. Okay? Now, let's do some examples of rounding to the nearest whole number. So let's say I have 3.06. I always look at my ones place. By ones place, and I underline my 10th place. Is this number 5 or more? No, I don't add. If it is 5 or more, then I add. So let me write 8. So I circle the ones, I underline the 10th place. Is this digit more than, is this digit 5 and more? If your answer is yes, then you add 1 to your circle and your answer becomes 4. Okay? 4 units, whatever the unit is, whether it's millimeter, centimeter, depending on the question. Remember, when you're measuring the length of your rectangle, yes, you might see a picture like this. So your length and width. The length is usually the long side. The longest side, the bigger number, represents the length. So that's why I wrote, remember the length is always longer than the width. The bigger number is the length, the smaller number is the width in your rectangle. Okay. Now, I keep on saying if you read incorrectly, your answer will be wrong. What does between mean? Between does not mean in the middle. Between means you are in that space. How do I explain? Okay. So now, I'm trying to see here. Between my red pen and the bottle is the pencil. But the pencil is not in the middle of the red pen and the bottle. It is just in this space, okay? So between means you're in the space. And it doesn't mean you're going to be equal. For you to be between, you don't have to be equal. Sometimes you could be equal and sometimes you cannot be equal, okay? So the spaces are not the same size. So I'm saying the space from my red pen to the pencil is not the same size as the space from my pencil to the bottle. So this space is different from this space. The sizes are not the same. That's what between means. They are not equal parts. In the middle, it means they have to be equal distance. That means if this is 5 centimeter, that has to be 5 centimeter. I'm just giving an example. If this is 10 centimeter, this distance from pencil to bottle has to be 10 centimeter. Equal, that means middle. Between means this is 4, this is 6, like that. Or this is 2, this is 8. Or this is 1, this is 9. Okay? Now, when you're talking about length, you can say lengths are equal. When you're talking about segments, you will say segments are congruent. This means you have to say AB is equal to, let's say, CD. This is correct. When you don't have a line over here, when you don't have a line over here on top, it is a length. When you have a line on top, it is a segment. And you use the word congruent. So if the line is on top, you use congruent. If there is no line, then you use equal. If you write congruent over here, if you write congruent over here, it will be wrong. Congruent is only for segments. Equal is only for lengths. So that is why I wrote for you here. Lengths are equal, but do not use congruent. Do not use congruent. Even here, but do not use equal. Do not. So when you're talking about segments, use the word congruent. When you're talking about length, you must use the word equal. Okay? Now, calculating measures. So you will see questions in this lesson that require you to find the measurement of some lines. Okay? So you can do either by adding or by subtraction. This is your whole segment. AC is the whole because it's the beginning and this is the end. So always write whole equals part 1 plus part 2. So if we are adding, so I'm saying AC, I found it by adding AB and BC, or AB to BC gives me AC. So AC equals AB plus BC. Okay? I can also do this a different way. I can say for me to find AB, I need to remove BC from AC. So that's what I wrote. AB equals AC, the whole minus the part. And when you're doing this minus, the part, you must put it in bracket. Please put it in bracket, especially when you have X in your equations. Especially when your equation is just, it has the X in it, you must use brackets when you're subtracting. Because you got to do distribution property. If you don't do distribution property, your answer will not be correct. Use the bracket. So I did for part 1 and I also did for part 2. It depends. Maybe the question will ask you for the first part or the second. It doesn't matter. As long as you know who is your whole and who is part 1 and who is part 2. So to get a part, it's a whole minus another part. To get a whole, it is the 2 parts and you add them together. Okay? Now let us do the example for measuring. This one, where I explained how to do part of a whole. And then we will do also an example about, this one. Okay? So let me see it from the book. All right, now let's do this one. So we are measuring AB. Okay? Now, what does the question say? Oh, this one is about. So this one is more than a unit because it has passed 1. So it is 3 and some units, okay? So it's 3 whole units and some part. But this part is closer to 4. So this is 4 units. So I can say this line segment AB is about 4 centimeters long. Now, if I want to find the exact measurement, if I want to find the exact measurement of AB, now I need to count how many spaces are from 0 to 1. So this should be 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So there is 10 spaces between 0 and 1. So that I will write here at the bottom. I will write 10. Now, I want to count how many spaces are from A to B. I already know there is 10 here. So 10, 20, 30, 35, 36, 37, 38. Okay? So I found 38 because there's 2 spaces they did not use. No, they didn't use 3 spaces. See? So this is 37 here. That's where my dot is. 37. So on top over here, I will write 37. Now, I want to change this. I just take my calculator. But I should know without using the calculator. 37 divide 10, I should get 3.7. And that's how I write it. 3.7 centimeter. And that's my answer. Okay? Again, I know that there is 10 spaces between 3 and 4. And here they didn't use 3 spaces. So then I know that from 10, I subtract 3 spaces, I get 7. So that is how I knew. I have 37 spaces from 0 to here. And that's how I found my answer. Okay? And there. So you must know how to count correctly. I want to find another one. Yes, let me use this one. Let me do both. A. Okay. All right. So how many spaces from 0 to 1? Let's count. 1, 2, 3, 4. So write 4 at the bottom. So you write 4 at the bottom. How many spaces from C to D? 5, because this is 4 and another one extra. So 5 over 4. Then change it to decimal. That should be 5 divide 4. 5 over 4 and press SD. And you write that. And you write your units. Whatever the unit is, centimeter. There. The unit, you'll always find it labeled on your ruler. Okay? All right, let's do this one. And that will be the last example I'm doing for measuring. So I want to count how many spaces are between 0 and 1. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. So between 0 and 1, there is 16 spaces. Okay, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. And 20 over 16. My answer should be more than 1 because it passed the 1 mark. So let us do 20 divide 16. I got 5 over 4. And I got 1.25. So this became 5 over 4, which is 1 and 1/4, which is 1 and 2/25 centimeter. So that's how you do. See, I came from an improper fraction. I simplified it. I simplify this by dividing by 4. Remember, I don't know if they're going to give you a calculator, so you have to know how to do without a calculator. So this is 5 over 4. How many 4s are in 5? 1 whole 4, and 1 remains. So 1 out of 4. And 1 out of 4, if you change it out to a decimal, it becomes 25 hundredths. And this is your answer. Don't forget that the denominator is the spaces between 0 and 1. This you must know. Okay? Now let's do an example about measuring like this. So let me make my book smaller. Okay. To find JL, I'll just add JK to KL. So I will add this too. This is easy because you're moving from J to L. So you're moving from J to K, K to L. I want the whole line, I will add. I want to find where, and here this is easy. This is AB is missing. I will minus 132 and 13.2 with 5.8. It will give me AB. And you write your equation just like that. And you subtract. Okay? I want to find where we have algebra. A question where we have algebra to do. Yes. Let's do this one like here. Wait. There should be examples for this here. Okay, here. Okay. All right, we read. So as we read, you draw. Find the value of x if BC is between C and D. So they say BC if B is between C and D. So you have C, you have D, and you have B. Okay? Now, CB is 2x. And I label CB is 2x. BD is 4x. And then they also said BD is 12. So that's what I did. BD is 4x. I put it on BD. And then they also told me BD is 12. Okay. So now I will use this to find x. Okay. So I will say 4x equals to 12. Okay. Then divide both sides by 4. X is 3. If x is 3, so then this will be 2 times 3. And that will be 6. So this is 6. And that's how I did my work. So the value of the question asked me to find who? To find x. And there, I found x. That's it. That's my answer. Let's do example question 8. CB is 4x. So I do again a line. I have C, and I have D, and I have B. Then what did I say? CB is 4x minus 9. 4x minus 9, CB. And BD is 3x plus 5. And CD is 17. And CD is 17. So now I write my equation. I can either add or subtract. It doesn't matter. So I write whole equals part 1 plus part 2. My whole is CD. My part is CB plus BD. Okay? Then I know that CD is 17. I know that CB is 4x minus 9 plus 3x plus 5. Okay? Then I put my friends together. 17 equals 4x plus 3x minus 9 plus 5. 17 equals 7x. 4 plus 3 is 7. Negative 9 plus 5. Negative 9 plus 5, that should be 4. Negative. So negative 9 plus 5 should be negative 4. So 7x minus 4. Who are friends? 17 and negative 4 are friends. I add 4 on both sides. This goes away because it is additive. Additive inverse gives me 0. So 17 plus 4, that is 21, equals to 7x. Divide both sides by 7. X equals to 3. Then I check. 4 times 3. 4 times 3 is 12 minus 9. What is 12 minus 9? 12 minus 9 is 3. Okay? And then 3 times 3 is 9. 9 plus 5. What is 9 plus 5? 14 or 13? 9 plus 5 is 14. 14. Then 14 plus 3 is 17. Then I know I am correct. So that is how you're supposed to do this, okay?